Hey book lovers, I'm Elise and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to discuss some books where the average star rating and my rating are quite different. I have a list of books here where my star rating for the book is about 1.5 stars different than the community rating. These community ratings are based off of the Fable star ratings. So if you see the star ratings on Goodreads, they might be a little bit different. I do have two different categories. I have the category where I rated higher than average, and then the larger list are the books that I rated quite a bit lower than average. So let's get into it. All right, we will go ahead and start with the books that I rated lower than everybody else, and then we can end on a high note with books that I loved more than everyone else. The first one is Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. This one I had an arc for. I was pretty excited for it. The community rating on Fable is 3.56, and I gave this one 2 stars. Some of the issues that I had with it were I typically don't like books where the main character or one of the main characters is a child, and this book is completely from the point of view of a child, which was kind of difficult for me, but it's difficult to do anyway because with the writing, it's almost hard to determine sometimes how old this main character is. I think she's supposed to be around 8 years old, and sometimes she felt 8, sometimes she felt a lot younger than that. I will say it was interesting seeing her parents' toxic marriage through the eyes of a child, but for the most part, it didn't work for me as far as the voice goes. And then there is an entity that haunts this little girl. I'm very picky, I think, when it comes to haunting and possession stories. I don't want it to be a subtle haunting, but sometimes it's like too over the top, and I feel like this one was just a little too over the top. So overall, I didn't really care for this one. The next one is The Stranger in Her House by John Mars. This one's a thriller. I love John Mars. Historically, I really only enjoy his sci-fi. His thriller, well, that's not true. I have enjoyed his thrillers in the past, but usually they don't really do it for me. This particular story, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I just remember being really bored, and I think either the reveals that happened either weren't very exciting or just didn't make sense to me. I'm not really sure. But overall, the community rating for this one is 3.85, and I gave it 2 stars. Next is Expiration Day. It's by Rebecca Searle. This was the second book by Rebecca Searle that I have read. The first one was One Italian Summer, I believe it's called, and I enjoyed that one. I thought it was pretty good. Overall, this story, it was a little too convenient. So this is the one where it's magical realism, and this woman, like, she finds sheets of paper that has the name and length of time that she's going to be dating somebody. So if she meets somebody new, she'll find a piece of paper with his name on it and basically the expiration date of their relationship. Yeah, this one didn't work for me. It was a plot thing. I felt like the whole idea of these slips of paper was just a little too convenient, and I don't like when stories do that. The community rating for this one was 3.52, and I gave it 2 stars. Next is The Haunting of Velquid by Gwendolyn Kais. This was my first read by this author. I do own one of her other books as well, which I'm now a little nervous to get into. This one in particular was an arc. It is a horror, and it's about this girl going back to her hometown that is like abandoned. I don't remember all the details. I just remember it did not work for me. I can't remember specifically why it didn't work. I know I wasn't super into the writing, which is why I'm a little nervous to get into the book of hers that I do own physically. But then just the story in and of itself, I do remember one part of it being pretty impactful, but overall, I think it had a lot to do with the decisions of the main character. Unfortunately, I don't remember much more than that, just the fact that it did not work for me. Community rating for this one is 3.66, and I gave it 2 stars. Next is Monstrilio by Gerardo Samana Cordova. I read this book 2 years ago now, I want to say. It gained in popularity a bit with BookTube. It's a literary horror, a lot about grief, but this woman, her son passes away, and she basically nourishes a part of him in order to keep him around. Yeah. I won't go into much more detail than that. I had my hopes set pretty high for this one just because I had just seen so many positive reviews. The community average is 4.12, so clearly I am an outlier when it comes to this one, but I just did not like it. The grief surrounding losing a child, unimaginably heartbreaking, but overall just the story, it was kind of weird. It didn't really do what I wanted it to do, and that could just be because I heard so many good things about it. I had it on a pedestal, and I had it in my mind of like what the story was going to look like, and it just did not. It did not look like that whatsoever. So yeah, This one did not work for me at all. Like I said, 4.12 community average, and I gave it 2 stars. Next is The Trap by Catherine Ryan Howard. This was my second book, I think. Yeah, second book that I read from this author. Also did not care for the first one that I read by her, which was 56 Days. Overall, I just think this author's writing doesn't work for me, but also the story. I just feel like the main character made a lot of really questionable decisions that I didn't care for. And also I'm learning that I don't like stories that have to do with true crime or when there's a lot of police investigation involved. That's just not something I enjoy reading about. So overall, community rating for this one is 3.51 and I rated it 2 stars. Next is The Chateau by Jacqueline Goldis. I remember actually doing a vlog that had this book in it and I ranted about this book. I did not like it. I ended up rating it 2 stars and I think that was maybe a little too high. One thing that I do remember specifically is that all of the characters felt the same. There was no real difference. The reveals were not at all surprising. I am very picky when it comes to thrillers, and it was actually right around the time that I read this book that I admitted to myself, maybe I don't like thrillers as much as I thought I did. Community rating for this one is 3.38 and I gave it 2 stars. Next is Ward D by Frida McFadden. This one's not really surprising for me. I've read a lot of Frida McFadden. Some of them I really enjoy, some of them I do not. This one just didn't work for me. I think, if I recall, this is the one that takes place in a psychiatric ward over the course of one night, I believe, which I think was my biggest issue with this book, is the amount of things that happened in this book, and it was only one night. There were some flashbacks that took place that kind of pulled you out of the main storyline a little bit, but overall it's like there was a lot. It was a little extra. Community rating for this one is 3.87 and I gave it 2 stars. Next up is The Passengers by John Mars. Another John Mars on the list. This one is sci-fi though. So his sci-fi are all from the same world, starting with The One. So there's The One, The Minders, The Passengers, The Marriage Act, and then The Family Experiment, I believe. I've read all of them now except for The Minders. You should read them in order, but you don't really have to. The Passengers is one about these people. They're in autonomously driven vehicles that get hacked and they're all flying towards the same destination, and the people in the cars are under the assumption that they are going to die at the end of this trip. I was so incredibly bored with this story, which is kind of weird because it is high stakes. Like there's a lot going on and you're learning a lot from chapter to chapter of all these different characters. Oh yeah, I really didn't like it. Definitely my least favorite John Mars sci-fi. I am certainly an outlier when it comes to this one as well. The community rating is 4.08 and I gave it 2.5 stars. Next is a sci-fi novella called For a Limited Time Only by Ping Shepard. This is one of those, it's like the time travel something or other. It was a collection on Amazon. This one, to be quite honest with you, I don't remember a whole lot about it. I just remember I was not impressed, specifically compared to the rest of the stories in this collection. I think I remember something about a woman's husband that passed away, but don't quote me on that. I could be very wrong. I didn't enjoy this one. That's really all there is to it. Community rating 3.73. I gave it 2 stars. Next is The Nightmare Virus by Nadine Brandis. This one's a sci-fi fantasy and it's YA. I think that's kind of pretty much the extent of my issues with the book. I love fantasy and I love sci-fi, but I don't like when they kind of like blend together in the same story. Usually, because Dungeon Crawler Carl does that as well, and I didn't necessarily mind it for that, but for this particular story, it blended too much to where I didn't really see the sci-fi. Like really the only sci-fi aspect that I could really see was the fact that there is this virus that causes people to be trapped in this nightmare environment. Aside from that, like a lot of other things seemed very fantastical. And the fact that it was YA, more often than not, I don't like YA. The writing and the voice doesn't usually click with me, like on a maturity level. It had that going against it right away. But this book is pretty well loved by a majority of people. So community rating was 4.19 and I rated it 2 stars. Next is another pretty well loved fantasy, and that is The Games Gods Play by Abigail Owen. This one is about these games that gods play. like Greek. I can't remember if they're Greek or Roman, but these gods, every 100 years, they pick a human tribute to compete for them. This is the first one in quite a while that Hades is participating because he meets this mortal girl and he's like, yes, you will fight for me and we will win. I really, really wanted to like this one. The premise sounded amazing. I liked the gods. I liked the descriptions. The book itself was gorgeous. I had a really pretty edition with sprayed edges. I've since sold it on Pango. Just, it did not work for me. I really could not stand the main character. And I did not understand what Hades saw in her. And on top of that, there were a couple plot points that happened purely to push the plot forward. Like they were random and too convenient, and it only happened to push the plot forward. And I really hate when books do that. It was just not enjoyable for me. Overall rating for that one is 4.15 and I rated it 2 stars. Next is The Measure by Nikki Erlick, another pretty well loved book. This is the one where one morning everybody wakes up and outside their door is a box with a string, and the length of the string correlates to how much of your life you have left. Definitely an interesting concept, and it does kind of delve into the whole aspect of prejudice against people who have short strings. So people with short strings may not have the same opportunities at work as people with long strings, or are less likely to be approved for a loan, or, you know, let into certain programs or things like that. So the discussion about that and similar things was pretty interesting. But I think overall what I found with Nikki Erlick is that her sci-fi is definitely more speculative, so very light on the sci-fi. The sci-fi aspects are just like a very subtle part to the story, but majority of the story doesn't really revolve around that. For this one, I did not click with any of the characters. I wasn't rooting for anybody. I was just really bored. Community rating for this one is 4 stars and I gave it 2. Next is The Martian by Andy Weir. I really did not like this book. I loved Project Hail Mary, and I think what I did wrong here is that I read Project Hail Mary before I read The Martian, which I do not suggest doing. If you've not read either of these books yet, please read The Martian first, because then you'll probably like it, and then once you get to Project Hail Mary, you'll probably love that. They're just completely like on different levels as far as I'm concerned. The humor in this book, I felt like it was trying too hard. So things would happen, things would go wrong in the story, and you're like, oh my gosh, like how are we gonna get out of this? But then the main character would very easily get out of it. And that just kept happening. It's like, oh no, something happened. Okay, I fixed it. Over and over and over again. I pretty much only finished this book out of anger. Community rating for this one is 4.38 and I gave it 2 stars. And the final book on my rating being lower than the community rating list is When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. Oh my goodness gracious. I don't know what people see in this book. I decided to read it. It was one of the first books that I read this year, and I decided to read it because so many people, it was on so many people's best books of 2025. I truly do not understand. There's a child main character, which I've already said I don't enjoy. This is a horror, but it's a little bit fantastical, and I feel like there's a very fine line in horror if there's going to be fantasy elements, because it can sound silly. And this one sounded so silly to me, like ridiculously silly. And it was overly gory. And I'm sure that's just my personal preference. But this, like, I don't know. Some of the things that happened and some of the descriptions of what had happened, I'm like, was that detailed of a description necessary? I don't want to count that against the book because that is totally personal preference. Extreme horror is not my thing. It's not like this is splatterpunk or anything like that. And I kept hearing so many times people say that the twist or reveal was mind-blowing. What twist? What reveal? Nothing in this book was surprising. There are 2 things that came out that I'm assuming is supposed to be the reveal people are talking about. Was that not obvious from like page 5? I don't know. This book is definitely going on my worst books of the year list. Community rating for that one is 4.23 and I gave it 1 star. Alrighty, now on to the better books. I mean, better for me, not better for the reading community. So is this ending on a high note? It's ending on a high note for me. The first one, Red Clocks by Lenny Zumas. Laney, it might be Laney. I don't even know how to describe it. It follows multiple women and it's very much a story about feminism and like the power of being a woman and the struggles that women have to face to retain their power. And I just felt like the plot itself is not super exciting. So if you're reading it for the plot, I can understand why you wouldn't rate it very highly. I really liked what it had to say. So much so that I gave this 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I'm trying to remember, like, I mean, there's a woman who is kind of a witch, I guess you could say. She helps women out of tricky situations. I don't really want to explain too much about the story. One, because I don't 100% remember all the details. Like, I do, but I don't. And I don't want to give anyone any false expectations if they do decide to read this. But I would say if you like stories heavily revolving around feminism and you like powerful voices, then this is definitely one for you to pick up. Community rating for this one is 3.59. And like I said, I rated it 5 stars. Next is The Clinic by Kate Quinn. So earlier when I said I really don't like thrillers anymore, this book I read after I decided I don't like thrillers. But this one, I enjoyed it. I think in order for me to like thrillers, it needs to be atmospheric, which this certainly was. It needs to have twists, like not subtle reveals, but like twists that slap you silly, and this one had that. And then also just like really good character work, and I feel like there were a lot of characters in this story that you get to know and you kind of grow to love in a way. I really enjoyed this one. Community average is 3.53 and I gave it 5 stars. I mean, all the books on this list are gonna be 5 stars. Okay, the next one is really fun. And I have to read the title because I can never remember what it's called. The Widow's Husband's Secret Lie by Frida McFadden. This is a satirical thriller novella, and I read it around Christmas time a year ago, I think it was. So not this past Christmas, but the Christmas before that. It was on KU, and I wanted something quick to read at the end of the year. And I'm just like, okay, this sounds interesting. This book is hilarious. So it's like a spoof book. Think Scary Movie, how those are a spoof and satire for all slasher movies. This book is like that for thriller books. So like all of the ridiculous cliches that you see in thriller books are in this one, but like really, really, really overdone. If you are currently feeling very skeptical when it comes to thrillers, I would give this one a go, because it is a thriller. It's really funny. It's ridiculous. So it is not serious at all. So please don't go into this thinking that it is a serious anything or that it has anything serious to say, because it doesn't. It's just fun. I really enjoyed my time with it. I gave it 5 stars. The rest of the reading community doesn't quite agree. So the average is 3.31. The last book on this list is a sci-fi, and that is The Way Up Is Death by Dan Hanks. This is the one where this tower kind of appears out of nowhere in the sky over the UK, and randomly, after it's been in existence for a little while, 13 strangers are transported to the base of this tower, and their objective is to get to the top of the tower without dying. But of course a lot of people do. It's very Squid Game-esque. There's lots of different levels that people have to get through, and it's pretty much like for everyone else to proceed to the next level, one person has to die. It's very high stakes. It's very stressful. There are a lot of characters to follow, but because they start kind of dwindling so quickly, it wasn't super hard to keep track of all the characters, and I feel like it did a really good job of, like, all the characters felt so different and unique. And there are only 3 POVs, so it's not like you get a POV from every single one of the characters. You get like the main guy who's very like sweet and thoughtful and just a really good person, and then this woman, and then also this dirtbag of an American, and he's the only American in the cast, which I find hilarious. I did a full fan cast for this book because I was obsessed with the characters. It was a great time. The community rating is 3.35, and of course I gave it 5 stars. There you have it. Those are all of the books where my ratings differed pretty greatly from the rest of the bookish community. I'm sure as time goes on, I'll be able to add more to this list and do another video. Hopefully I get more books that I rated more highly than everybody else. But it is interesting to see that my list of books that most people loved and I just really did not. It was interesting to see that list be so much longer. Thank you so much for watching. Please do remember to like and subscribe, and until next time, bye.